Okay, Chair, when you're ready, we're now live on YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Good morning and welcome to the virtual East Devon District Council Standards Committee meeting on Wednesday, the 27th of July, 2022. I'd like to welcome viewers to the Council's YouTube channel as well. I'm your Chair, Councillor Ian Thomas. Primarily due to COVID risk concerns, Council's delegated much of its decision-making power to senior officers until the 31st of October 2022. This meeting is therefore on a consultative basis. However, we'll work as closely as possible to procedural rules as set out in our Constitution. Members are aware that our Code of Conduct applies throughout the meeting. We reserve the right to remove or disconnect any disruptive participant. This meeting relies on a sound internet connection. Should that fail, please bear with us as we try to reconnect. Should that not be possible within 15 minutes, we'll adjourn the meeting and reconvene at a later date. Should you wish to speak or comment on any item, would you please raise your electronic hand and wait to be called? Our full agenda is available online at www.eastdevon.gov.uk. Could we start the meeting with a roll call of committee members present, please, Debbie?
Yes, of course, Chair. I'll start with yourself, Councillor Ian Thomas.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Dean Barrow.
Present. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you. Councillor Cathy Gardner, please.
Present.
Thank you, Cathy. Councillor Vicky Johns, I don't see on the call. Councillor John Loudon, please.
Present, Debbie, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eleanor Rylance is not on the call and I'm assuming she's giving her apologies, Chair. Councillor Phil Twist, please.
Morning, Debbie. Yep, here. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to our independent persons. Diana Kerr has given her apologies, so I'll move on to Patrick Coulter, please.
Present.
Thank you. Independent representatives, Robert Wood, please.
Present.
Thank you, Robert. Martin Goscombe, please.
Present.
Thank you, Martin. And Ken Bryant, please. If you could just say you're present, Ken, that would be great.
Present, sorry.
Thank you very much, Ken. Moving on to our town and parish representatives, Councillor Bob Nelson, please.
Present.
Thank you, Bob. Pauline Stott, please.
Present.
Thank you, Pauline. And Councillor Serena Sexton has given her apologies, Chair. So I can confirm your quorum. Back to you, Chair. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Debbie. I've got agenda item 1 is public speaking. I don't have any members of the public registered to speak. Agenda item 2 are the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 12th of April 2022. If anybody's any concerns, could you please raise your electronic hand? Otherwise, I'll take it that you're content to accept the minutes as presented. Thank you very much. Apologies, agenda item 3. I remember, Debbie, you went through 1 or 2, but I've got Councillor Serena Sexton on my notes, and perhaps you could add the rest.
Yep, so the others are Diana Kerr as independent person and Councillor Eleanor Rylance, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. I think I'd rather than go through a full list of these, Debbie, is take it by exception, same as we did at full council. So if any members present, including those not on the committee, have got any declaration of interest on any of the items involved, could they please indicate now, and we'll note that. I'm not seeing any Oh, Councillor Bailey, Jess. You're muted, Jess.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm referred to in the complaints schedule. So I don't know. I find it difficult to understand the new flow chart. So I don't know whether that means I have to make a declaration or not. I'm not sure whether it's an ORI. I'm not sure. So I'd like to take advice on that, please.
Thank you, Jess. I think on the basis that's slightly unusual. Could I just ask Henry to give you some brief guidance on that, please?
Yeah, so there's a balance here. I mean, clearly it's an effects NRI in the sense that it relates to you. And in fact, it's probably prejudicial in the sense that it's about you too. So I think the extent to which you're capable of remaining is dependent on what's going to happen in that item. So I think in essence, if it's not going to be something you're interested in discussing, then I would probably, and there's no decision required, you're probably okay to stay. But I think if you wanted to play it safe, then you're probably safer off declaring an effects and prejudicial and actually leaving.
In that case, I'll declare a prejudicial and I'll leave for that particular bit.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bailey. Moving on to agenda item 5, matters of urgency. I've got no matters of urgency today. Agenda item 6, confidential or exempt items. There's one confidential and exempt item which officers recommend should be dealt with in this way. That's listed on your hymn sheet as item 8. Councillor Twist, Phil.
Morning, everybody. Morning, Ian. I'm very concerned that this item appears in Part B. I can't for the life of me see why it's in Part B. It's obviously of intense public interest, as the report says, that the investigations have been long, convoluted, etc. But the big public interest item for me is the amount of money the East Devon District Council have spent on this, and it's clearly in the public interest that this should be heard in Part A. It will look completely wrong if it's heard in Part.
You still there, Phil? Sorry, I think can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, but thank you very much. So I wasn't sure whether we'd all gone off or whether Councillor Twist had disappeared. Well, I can see him, but I can't hear anything from him. Henry, we did discuss this briefly. Is it appropriate to set out the reasons for something being in Part B now?
Yeah, because it relates to it's relating to effectively 5 individuals, 4 more acutely, and there are obviously data protection issues in there as well. So from my perspective, it meets the criteria in the Local Government Act for this being a Part B item.
Okay, thank you very much.
And my view should be.
No, thank you very much, and thanks for confirming that. I wanted to get that on the record, though, so it was quite clear for any members of the public listening as to exactly why that decision, why that recommendation was made, and why obviously we'll follow that today. Next, sorry, did you catch any of that, Councillor Twist? You disappeared.
The broadband failed because I was finishing my rant, which wasn't a rant.
Well, that's all right. I was just pleased that obviously I didn't want to get blamed for censoring you or anything like that. You know.
No, nothing to do with you. That's down to me. Thanks very much for your
you froze with a wonderful expression on your face. The upshot of it is we've taken advice from Henry. Henry's confirmed his advice, and on the basis of that, we're going to go ahead with the item in Part B and as agenda item 8.
Can I ask what that advice is and who he's got that advice from?
Well, we have actually had that once. But on the basis that your query, Henry, perhaps if you could repeat, please.
Yeah, so it's because it relates to individuals, and what I didn't say is that the circumstances that might justify this being in Part A, in a sense, has evolved because of particular circumstances, which I can talk about more in the Part B item. But the bottom line is it meets the criteria under the Local Government Act because it relates to four individuals.
Okay.
I am now completely confused. I'm completely confused because in item whatever it is that has the complaint schedule, that also refers to individuals. So what's the difference between that and this?
Yeah. So we've got, and it's something I was going to pick up in the next item anyway, in a sense, is that there were we have 3 code complaint processes that I have been operating under because it has changed twice in the last few years. So the 2020 cases were being dealt with under one process, the 21 case under another, and the 2022 are effectively under a combined set of processes. So I've been trying to work through all of these under different processes. The 2020 cases, there is an entitlement to maintaining confidentiality throughout, all the way through up until it gets to a standards hearing effectively, whereas the current processes are slightly different. The Part B item is compounded by the fact that those individuals are no longer councillors as well. So for all of those reasons, essentially, and because it is specifically relating to individuals, my advice is that it should be dealt with in Part B. I do get the public interest point about public money. I understand that. But for me, the public interest is not outweighed here by the rights of those individuals or the need to protect those individuals, hence why it's recommended for Part B.
Thank you very
are
much,
you saying,
Philip, Sorry, can we just...
Sorry, I didn't answer. Sorry, I didn't answer one part. So the reason some individuals are identified is because under the process that was in place at the time, where a breach is found, that is made public. And at that point, the process dictates that they become public information, or it's gone all the way through to standards, say, and that would have necessitated coming out in public. So the reason they're identified is because the process allowed it.
It's an unsatisfactory position, Henry, because I thought that these individuals were subject to the code of conduct 12 months after they ceased to be councillors, and they ceased to be councillors in January, I think it's January or February of this year, according to the report. So they are subject to the code, are they not?
No. Councillor Twist, can I move on, please? Okay. Thank you very much for your comment. It's a perfectly fair question, and I think it was helpful that Henry was able to run through the reasoning in a little more detail at this point, because obviously any members of the public watching may not necessarily follow it all, but at least they know. I've got a couple of speakers, which I imagine is related to this. So I've got Robert Wood, please.
Yes, I just wondered whether it was possible, as part of the public minutes of this meeting, to provide a summary that a investigation was held without naming the individuals and recording the amounts of money spent, etc. Without so you wouldn't be breaching GDPR, but you would be getting, what is the I would agree with Councillor Twist, legitimate legitimate information regarding costs and investigations out, and that might be a way of solving the conundrum.
Yeah, that sounds a sensible proposal to me. Henry, is there any reason we shouldn't do that?
No, and the minutes do record elements of the discussion and the decision that will, I say decision, whatever outcome might be taken by the committee. So that will be recorded and there will be a narrative that goes with it. But the point is of having the discussion and the detail around in the reports in the public domain is a different consideration. But yes, there should be a public record of what was discussed. And I'm quite content that the public money aspect is covered in that. There's no reason why it wouldn't be. It would be available through the accounts anyway.
Okay, thank you very much. That's helpful. Councillor Loudon, John.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. I understand Councillor Twist's anxiety here. I also note the, if you like, complexity of running the three systems, as Henry has just advised us about. And I also particularly do get the point Councillor Twist has raised about the money, because that was something that sort of stuck out to me. Hearing the response to Robert's proposal, I am content to continue with this matter in Part B. And if it helps you, Chair, I'm happy to propose that if that is necessary.
Thank you very much. I don't believe it is necessary. Do you? Is it, Henry?
It isn't formally, but I mean, it would be helpful, I suppose, if the committee are going to agree to move in or to close the meeting after item 7. I suppose it would be helpful for that agreement to be there. Okay,
then, well, in terms of, I need to speak to, well, I've got Martin Goscombe.
Yeah, I was just going to say that without giving any detail at all, yes, large sums of money were involved. And if that, as may be the case, leads to some suggested reconsideration of part of the procedure for dealing with a complaint, that would automatically come to this committee anyway for discussion, and providing it didn't go into details about names of individuals involved rather than just principles, there would be a further opportunity for the concerns that Councillor Twist quite correctly has to be considered in more detail.
Thank you again, that's helpful. Do we need a formal vote to confirm that, or assuming there's no dissenter?
Yeah, I think to have a show of hands, Chair, if you don't mind, just to confirm that everybody's content, or there is a collective will to go into Part B, as it were. Please.
So you wanted not on the two suggestions that have been made so far in terms of further work. What you mean is in terms of the actual moving to Part B rather than it basically taking the agenda as presented.
Yes.
Okay, then what I'd like to propose we move it forward at the appropriate time. We're obviously not there yet. And I believe Councillor Loudon seconded that. Could I have all those in favour, please? I'm not sure what councillor, we were doing show of hands, but it will.
Yeah.
You could use your green ticks, please.
All right, we'll use green ticks.
Apologies for my lateness as well, Chair.
Thank you. That's good. Right.
Chair, I have 7 in support, 1 against. No, just 7 in support and 1 abstention. Chair, that is carried for that Part B section. Thank you, Chair.
That's lovely, thank you. And that's very helpful. And thanks for bringing that up, Councillor Twist. And thank you for those others who've responded. I notice all my hands have disappeared now. So hopefully that's concluded this bit to everybody's satisfaction. I do actually have one as the left field shot for Councillor Johns. Vicky, while you've got your tea there, could you just confirm for the minutes, please? This is going back to briefly to agenda item 4, declarations of interest, that you actually don't have any you wish to declare at this point.
I believe that there may be an item on there relating to a town council that I'm part of. So I don't know if I need to declare an interest in that, Henry. I don't think it's actually due for discussion today, but
yeah. So if it's not due for discussion today, then I think that's okay.
It's on the list, but there's nothing under the section that needs to be discussed, I don't believe.
Yeah. So I mean, ultimately, it's down to you whether you want to declare. But if it isn't about something, if there's no decision to be taken today that that would trigger the need to declare, then there is no need, is there? But if you wanted to play it safe, then you'd have to make an appropriate declaration and act on it.
Okay. I think that probably the best thing to do would be, I'm not sure what the appropriate declaration would be, to be honest with you, Henry, because it's not a pecuniary interest. So
no, it would be an NRI. So it would be a question of whether it's an effects NRI, in the sense that you were capable of being capable of taking a decision on it or being involved in discussion on it, or it would be prejudicial if you couldn't be involved. I would probably the latter.
Yeah. So the item. Oh God, I don't even know which item it is, Henry. It's right at the very bottom. Thank you. Item 7. So I will not take part in any discussions that may or may not come up on that item.
Yeah. So for that one, you're going to need to leave the room as well.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Can Debbie help us leave the room at the appropriate time, please?
Well, the best thing to do, Councillor, is click the leave button. Otherwise, I can.
Yeah, but I don't know when exactly to leave, Debbie.
So you'll need to leave before that item that you've declared the interest on, when the chair announces it.
But there's only one part of it that I want to be absent for.
Well, it's your choice, Councillor. You've declared.
It's going to be the whole of the. It is in relation to the item. That's what it's part of the discussion, isn't it? I mean, this is the nature of the way they're presented. If perhaps in the future I can split the items out so that each year is dealt with separately, so that it's more specific. But that's not how I presented it for the last however many years. They are combined. They're all combined together. So I'm afraid it's sort of the nature of the beast for this item. So it is item 7.
I believe you and I'll be leaving at the same time then, Jess, because I'll need to leave at the beginning of item 7 as well. Although I don't think ours is going to be discussed. Mine's going to be, I don't think the one that I'm relating to is going to be discussed. So.
Well, you don't know, do you? I mean, that's the problem. There is an item in there that you are declaring on, and I can't separate them out unless the chair wants to reorder the agenda and add items so that they're taken separately. Each of the 3 years are taken separately. If the chair wanted to do that, that would probably make it slightly easier. So you could do 2020 as item 7, you could do 21 as item 8, and you could do 22 as item 9.
Or A, B, and C. Things you have later on. We appear to have lost the chair.
I was going to say, where's the chair?
I was just going to say that.
Quiet, wasn't he?
Oh dear.
John as vice chair.
Oh, thanks. That's really great, isn't it?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, vice chair.
Okay,
well,
so
we split it, John. I think that I can understand that. So let's split it. So you've got whether it's 7A, B, C, or 7, 8, 9.
Okay, so we're taking the 3 years separately. Yeah, Henry. Okay.
Yeah. So in this case, Councillor Bailey's consideration will be in relation to item 7B/8, and Councillor Johns's will be in relation to item 7C/9.
Okay. Now, okay. Before I look for a acclamation on this, right, Robert, you've got your hand up.
It was just a practical matter. Presumably the councillors involved would then like to rejoin the meeting for the remainder of the items, not wishing to judge their IT, but if they left and then tried to join immediately, they would be in the lobby, and then Debbie could let them in at the appropriate time.
Sounds to me as if you have a little bit of an idea of what you're talking about there. Seems a good idea to me. Right, thank you, Robert. And if that's okay with Debbie,
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, Dean, I see you've got a green tick. No, right, that's legacy. Okay, can we just do this by exception then to try and move this forward? Is anybody opposed to taking the 3 years one at a time? No, right, let's take that as agreed then, please. So we then move on, he says, to item 7. Have we've done the minutes, haven't we?
Yeah, we're on 7.
Yeah,
now.
We're on 7, it's all right. Oh, blimey. Right, item 7, which then takes us to 7A, shall we call it, which is 2020. Does anybody need to leave the room at this point?
Not for A.
Oh, I thought that was me.
2020, if you're leaving the room, go. And hands up.
So Councillor Bailey, you're 7B.
Okay, I've just let the chair back in as well, just to complicate matters further. So bear with us.
He's going to be coming back in at a particularly awkward time, isn't he? Back to you, Chair.
Right. I think he's got to guess what we've been doing.
Yeah, I'm staying on mute.
Right. If you want to hang on a second, Ian, what we've just agreed to do is to take item 7 and to take each year one at a time, 2020, 2021 and 2022 separately. And we were quite literally about to start the first one, 2020. So if I hand back to you, and it looks to me as if you've got Kathy Gardner, Councillor Gardner, with a hand up.
Hang on, so I'm trying to get my notes in here. You can buy me a bit of time, Kathy. Councillor Gardner.
Some of us didn't need notes, Chair.
Oh.
Now. I wanted to return to the point that Councillor Twist made, because I think it is a relevant point, and I know it's not on the agenda for today. But the issue of the costs for the monitoring officer and the fact that we may well go over budget. I don't know if this needs to be added to the agenda for a future meeting, but I think what strikes me is that for a process which has in the end ultimately very little sanction power, but is obviously taken seriously by members, because we should be upstanding folk. The costs of some of these investigations seem to be, very, very high, the level of detail that's gone into and everything else. And I don't know whether it is worth having a discussion at a future meeting about how that can be managed and whether it's a factor that should be borne in mind during the process at the assessment subcommittee, for example, as a factor that sometimes investigating some of these intricate arguments can be extremely expensive for an outcome which is in the end perhaps virtually nothing. I don't know, it's a very difficult question because standards is important, but costs are also important, and perhaps this could be added to a future agenda. It's just a thought. Thank you.
Chair, can I suggest that we pick that conversation up in item 8? Because it's quite acute to that set of circumstances. It's not that there isn't a wider point, and I think if there is a concern about how the current process, and bear in mind that was a process 3 ago, if there is a concern about the process, we probably ought to do it in 7C under the current process. But I think that point and the cost for this, it was quite a unique, well, not unique, but for us, it's not something we've experienced before, for as far as I'm aware. And I think it's probably worth having that conversation in item 8.
Thank you very much. No, I'd agree with that. It certainly is important, and but again, there's always a danger in going into commenting freely on an item that's going to end up in item 8 anyway, and something the discussion then drifts off, or it's restricted. So in terms of having the most effective discussion, I agree we should do it in item 8. Right, my apologies for getting cut off, and I'll send my best wishes to BT Openreach for the maintenance of the wonderfully unreliable connection that I have over here in the wild East End, and connecting Devon and Somerset who don't think it's actually worthy of updating. So, well, there we go. Of course, there's nothing prejudicial interest there, or is there, Henry? Should I declare an interest on the basis I've got a rubbish?
I reckon we get back to 7A. I reckon we get back to 7A.
7A, right, well, okay. Seven complaint, right, we're going through these one at a time. Is that correct? That's
yeah, because of the interest declarations, it's agreed to split these 3 items into their years.
Okay, well, over to you then.
Thank you. So very quickly, I can deal with this one because this is effectively dealt with in item 8. But this closes down the outstanding complaints from 2020. Is the summaries there, but the more specific detail we will cover in item 8.
Fine. Anybody to speak on that or not? No. There's no resolution or anything required, so we move on from that. So the second year, is there anything in that?
That's so Jess will need to. Councillor Bailey will need.
I'm just going to remove Councillor Jess Bailey. Oh, she's removed herself. She's beat me to it. I was going to pop her in the waiting room. Okay, Chair. Thank you. You can continue on 7B.
Henry.
Thank you. So this also closes down 21 now, and it was a no breach conclusion by the investigator. So that matter is now closed, and there's not much more to say to that one either, really.
Still hearing no comments. 7C.
Okay. Yeah. Bear with me while I put Vicky into the waiting room.
Are you letting Jess back out or not?
Jess hasn't reappeared. She was. So if she reappears in the waiting room, Chair, I'll let her in. But Councillor Vicky Johns has now. Oh, here comes Jess. Councillor Vicky Johns is now in the waiting room. So 7C. Thank you.
Henry.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, this is the current year, and it has a combination of. Well, no, it isn't a combination. Actually, it is all under the new complaint process. Sorry, I was wrong earlier when I said that. This is all under the new complaint process, which obviously is involving the assessment subcommittee, of which we've had 2, and there is a 3rd following on. The cases are all listed there. There are a number still outstanding. There have been a number that have been closed down, but I'm happy effectively to take any questions there may be about it or the process generally. And yeah, obviously live complaints, we're not going to be able to go into the details, but I'm happy to answer any questions that there may be about it.
Thank you very much. Is anybody wanting to indicate? No, of a deafening silence on that one. So I've got to, do we actually have a recommendation or anything to propose?
No, they're just simply for noting, really, for the committee's aware of what's going on in terms of complaint activity.
Okay, then it's quickly and clever. I'd propose from the chair that those are noted. All those in favour, please, green ticks. Any against, red crosses.
Okay, I have 8 votes in support of that, Chair, so that's noted by the committee. Thank you. I'll just let back in Councillor Johns, and Councillor Arnott is joining us.
Ooh.
Okay, so Chair, with that bit done, we'll be moving into private session, which we've agreed on. So members, if you bear with me, I'm going to pop up the slide to show that we've reached the end of
I've got a short announcement on this.
I'll just get the slide ready. Yeah, if you could,
I'll do
Chair,
that now.
thank
That
you.
brings the public section of our meeting to an end. I'd like to thank any members of the public watching online. However, can I remind all present that the supporting officer will confirm when the meeting is no longer being live streamed. Until then, your comments will be live to the public. Thank you.